Monster Synthesis Master. Chapter 141. Why is everyone stirring up trouble? This woman was a little scheming. She made such an easily misunderstood action and expression, and only for him to see. She lowered her head, tied her hair, and the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. From the perspective of others, her face was covered by her shoulder-length short hair, and her facial expression could not be seen. Only when he was with the macaw, he could clearly see the casual expression. How could a woman who could represent her family to make purchases in public be a good person? Of course, if you had to say that she was interested and curious about Link, then she definitely was. Everyone in the entire Sand City was interested in Link. After all, he was the person chosen by the King of Assassins to enter the Platinum Hotel. In other words, he was someone who could be recognized by the King of Assassins, John. The memory of a group of new assassins and famous young men looking for John 5 years ago was still fresh in everyone's mind. In the end, all of them were beaten back by John. Even the Shining and Nightmare, who were currently ranked first and second on the assassin list, were given a cold shoulder. Now that Link had been chosen, everyone naturally wanted to see what kind of superhuman abilities he had. Just wait and see. If I'm not wrong, Laura's message will arrive in 10 minutes. It must be about the little pig. Link took out his phone and looked at everyone. The macaw scoffed and said, "Isn't this starting from the little pig as the starting point, and then extending it to you? This method of finding a topic is an old trick from 10 years ago." At the side, Fu touched his head. He had been confused since the beginning. The short-haired woman in the suit was clearly here to buy pets, but why did the macaw say that she was here for the boss? Moreover, the macaw kept repeating the same old trick, which was 10 years ago. Fu couldn't help but ask curiously, "How old are you?" The macaw raised its head and raised its metallic beak high. "I'm already 30 years old this year." "Ah? 3,30 years old?" Fu was shocked when he heard the number. This macaw was twice his age. The macaw was proud of itself. What's so strange about that? It's common for us macaw to live to 70 or 80 years old. Calm down, calm down. Only those who live long enough dare to go against others in a lane, and when the opponent dies, they can still dance on their graves. As they were talking, Link's phone suddenly buzzed 3 times. It was a notification for a text message. Link couldn't help but smile when he saw Laura's message. After reading it, he threw the phone to Third Brother. Third Brother held his phone with both hands and saw the content of the message. It was exactly the same as what his boss had said. This crickets. The Third Brother thought he was unparalleled in his wisdom and was the white paper fan that Link had helped him with. Now that he saw this situation, he felt that the macaw's words made sense, but he also felt that since boss could predict it accurately, there must be some hidden reason. "How about we make a bet? In less than 3 days, Laura will come to visit again, and she will also bring a little sow with her. She will say that she will find a playmate for the little pig." The macaw tutted again and said, "It's still the same old trick. I'll take the opportunity to be alone with you, and if I drink a glass of red wine, I'll let you push me down, and what's done can't be undone." 10 years had passed. Why did women still use such a slow method to chase men? A real woman should directly f*ck a man. What nonsense are you spouting? On the side, Third Brother thought for a moment and assessed the power of Little Pig and Boss. She's just a little pig, so why is Laura acting like this? As a big shot in the food and breeding industry of Shadow, what kind of pork had he not seen? Was there a need to go through so much trouble? On the other hand, the boss was the heir appointed by the King of Assassins, the only son of the Mun Kingdom's commander, Benjamin, and the leader of the Fox Hunter Special Forces, Li Zijun. He had countless secrets. With this comparison, the balance naturally leaned towards Link. Clearly, a Link was much more interesting than a little pig. I still think that macaw's words are more reasonable. "This woman is coming for you, boss. Boss, don't underestimate your charm. That's right, Master, you're definitely more attractive than a pig. Link was speechless. Wait, something seemed to be wrong. If Laura came for the little fragrant pig in the end, would the macaw say in a strange tone, "My master, you're actually not as charming as a pig." Link broke out in a cold sweat. The more he thought about it, the more likely it was. Damn it, he dodged Laura's trap but didn't manage to avoid the macaw's trap. As expected of the brilliant Zhuge Diamond. Third brother, put all this money in the safe. Link quickly changed the topic and walked out of the basement. The macaw quickly followed and shouted, "My master, can you get me a nest? If the capitalists want to squeeze out the remaining value, they have to arrange a nest first, right? Don't parrots all have a stick?" Link turned back in surprise. "They just have to stand on it. Why do they have to nest?" The macaw was speechless. It wanted to spit out fragrant words, but in the end, it held back. "Don't tell me you want me to squeeze with the family of 3, they want me to watch them show off their love every day. This Ying Luo is too unsuitable, is this a torture?" Link stopped in his office, keenly catching the essence of the macaw's words. "That's not right. There's only Sand Eagle and White Saber Sea Eagle in the cardboard box. Where did this family of 3 come from?" Link suddenly took 2 steps back and looked at the macaw with a strange expression. The magnificent Zhuge Diamond actually likes to be someone's son. Link was taken aback. "You should be on the 3rd floor, trying to reach your limit and exchange 1 for 1. The macaw heaved a long sigh and bowed. I'm completely dumbfounded. We're talking about serious business, and you're trying to push me to the limit and trade 1 for 1. The macaw raised its wings and pointed at the door. The white saber sea condor laid 3 eggs. The 2 condors are hatching the eggs there. This time, it was Link's turn to be dumbfounded. It's only been a few days, and it's actually laying eggs? Link quickly walked out of the office and went straight to the nest. He picked up the sand eagle and the white blade sea eagle with 1 hand each. Below the 2 of them were 3 milky white eggs. It really laid eggs. Link used the system to check. The system only notified him that it was a condor's egg and did not say anything else. Link was curious. What kind of abilities would the child of the sand eagle and the white blade sea eagle have? Should he inherit one of them, or should he fuse the 2 abilities? Just as Link was standing there thinking, the thug at the door ran in with a box. "Boss, there's a package for you." The sender of the package is the painter John. Fred shouted as he carried the box. Immediately, all the hatchet men of the Link gang put down their work and looked at the door. Link's brows furrowed as well. What was going on today? Why was everyone causing trouble? And John would send him a package? Could it be fake? Chapter 142 A Mysterious Package. "Fred, put the box on the ground in the yard," said Link as he stood at the door with his arms crossed. Fred didn't know what was going on, but he still did as his boss asked and put the box on the ground. "Have you ever thought that there might be a bomb in the box?" asked Link. The smile on Fred's face froze. No way, isn't it forbidden to use explosives in Shandu?" When the thugs around him heard this, they were so frightened that they immediately retreated and shrank back to the door of the room. "I think the box is quite light. Could it be an explosive?" Fred's face turned pale with fear. "This kind of mail is the easiest to forge," Link said with a smile. "Just give a fake sender's name and address. After the explosion, even if the Shitab military wants to investigate, they won't be able to do anything. Besides, you said that the name of the box is Painter John. Don't you think that others will be curious when they see such a box? How can we just send it to the Link gang?" Fred thought about it carefully and realized that it was true. Various industries in the Sand City were controlled by families or forces, and the mail business was no exception. The painter John was a famous figure on Wasteland Planet. Who wouldn't be curious about the package sent by such a supreme being? "Boss, is it really possible that the enemy sent this bomb in John's name?" Link looked at the chest and said, "Perhaps this is a warning or a threat." "This is an empty box." Earlier, Link had already asked the treasure-hunting mouse to sense the box. It was empty. An empty box? Fred was stunned for a moment. He immediately walked up and cut the box open with a knife. There was nothing inside. It was just as his boss had said. "Boss, it's really an empty box." Link's face was expressionless, but third brother frowned. "Who sent this? Is it a prank or a warning?" Just as everyone was still in shock over the strange empty package, the voice of the courier came from outside the alley again. "Link, help me. There's a bag for you." Another bag. With their boss's reminder, no one dared to go out to pick up the package. Seeing this, Fu raised his hand and squeezed out of the crowd. "I'll go if it's not possible." When the others heard this, they all had an incredulous expression on their faces. They never thought that the one who stood up at this time would actually be Brother Fu. Seeing that even Brother Fu had stepped forward, Fred gritted his teeth and stepped forward. "Brother Fu, I'll go with you." Fu waved his hand and pushed Fred back to the team. "Forget it. If it really explodes later, I'll have to spend time and effort to protect you." Link nodded and gestured for Fu to get it. Fu had the ability to spiritualize his body. As soon as he noticed something wrong, his spiritualism would immediately disappear, and the physical damage of the explosion would not do anything to him. Fu walked to the entrance of the alley and glanced at the courier. He didn't see anything different about the courier. He was the type of person who would forget after one look and blend into the crowd. Fu signed for the package and waited in her arms. The package was very light, and he didn't hear any movement even when he shook it. As they walked into the alley, Fu cut open the package with a knife and showed it to everyone. Another empty bag. The hot-tempered Bob couldn't help but curse, "Another empty bag. If I find out who's trying to trick us, I'll kill him." "Boss, this," third brother was at his wit's end. If the packages were to continue to be sent in this manner today, they would not be able to do anything. Link stared at the two empty boxes on the ground, trying to figure out what the other party was up to. "Hello, there's a parcel for Link. Please come out and sign for it." Everyone's spirits were lifted. Again. Everyone turned to look at their leader, Link, hoping that he would have a solution. "Everyone, disperse and do your own things. Don't loiter around in the courtyard. Fu will be in charge of retrieving the package. Also, bring me a chair." Link's expression was calm and collected. He wasn't distracted by a few empty bags at all. His calm performance was like a stabilizing force. The thugs who were panicking just now were all appeased when they saw their boss's appearance. Everyone followed the boss's instructions and scattered. Only the macaw beside Link was still cursing, "The person who did this is too much of a thief. If they have the ability, come out and fight it out. Doing such a shady thing is really a bad yin-yang person." This is a F***ing memorial tablet hidden in the dark. Where's the F***ing worship? Fu made another trip, and this time, it was still an empty box. Link held his coffee cup and bathed in the cool afternoon breeze. He looked peaceful as he sat and watched the show of the mastermind. The macaw behind him was already furious. F***ck, if I find out who the F***ck did it, I'll use my indestructible diamond mouth to directly poke the dog's head. If you like to hide in the dark and act cool so much, you'll just be a pair of underwear in your next life. I'll definitely hit your mother with a carrying pole until she doesn't know what year it is in the heavenly palace." The hellhound at the side raised its head and barked in protest. "Did the dog head offend you?" "Boss, it should be just these 5, right? It's been half an hour since I last received a package." Fu stood in the yard and looked down at the 5 empty bags. Lin Ke put down his coffee cup and walked to the yard. He squatted down to pick up the empty paper box and looked at it. It was just an ordinary parcel box, nothing special about it. However, to be safe, Link still let the treasure-hunting mouse out to check it carefully. The treasure-hunting mouse rolled back and forth on the front and back of the paper box, sniffing and sighing. Suddenly, its eyes lit up and it pointed at the paper box, squeaking. Link turned around and gestured for the macaw to translate for him. The macaw gulped down a mouthful of water and said, "Little Treasure is saying that he can smell a faint human scent in the box." "The scent of the person in the box?" Link frowned. He picked up the box and looked at it for a long time, but he couldn't see anything different. The treasure-hunting mouse jumped into the box in Link's hand and rapped on the bottom of the box with its claws. "You're saying that there's something inside?" The treasure-hunting mouse nodded. Link's eyes flashed as he thought of a termintor layer. He carefully cut open the other sides with a knife. Looking at the bottom of the yellow paper box, Link saw a wisp of white from the side. It was sandwiched between the gaps of the paper. Link's eyes lit up. He tore the paper apart and pulled out a white, translucent drawing paper. On the paper was a lifelike sketch of a magnificent modern building. All kinds of light and shadow intertwined and appeared through a pencil. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was wondrous. The skyscraper on the paper was the United Pharmaceutical Company that Link had been to before. On the lower right corner, Link saw the artist's signature. There are words behind this." The macaw had somehow run up to Link and looked up at the words on the back of the paper. Chapter 143 Who Would Write a Diary? Link flipped the sketch over and saw John's scribbled handwriting. Compared to the detailed sketch on the front, John's handwriting was much more wild. At first glance, it was easy to think of a doctor's prescription. Link's brows furrowed. He deciphered John's words with the solid foundation he'd built up from 9 years of compulsory education. "After 5 years, the Sand City has become a little unfamiliar to me. Many of my old friends tried to contact me after knowing that I was here, wanting to meet and reminisce. What they don't know is that I've already visited them in secret. Time had left clear traces on them. Some people were high-spirited in my memory, but when I saw them again, they were already past their prime, and I could no longer see the heroic appearance of the past. It turns out that in the face of time, all of us can't even withstand a blow." This messy yet delicate painting style highlighted his keen observation skills. Looking at the handwriting of the United Pharmaceutical Company building in the sketch, it should have been imprinted in his heart when he passed by it. There were also scribbled words on the back. Link was sure that it was John. "It's just that this guy gave me an omniscient gold coin, and it wasn't enough to push me to the surface. And now you're sending me these things. What's the meaning of this?" A painting with his own life insights. Why did this thing look so much like a postcard? The macaw behind him said, "Who would write a diary? This person looks indecent. I advise you to stay away from him." Link turned around and saw the macaw hanging upside down from the door like a bat, its claws gripping the beam tightly. "Why are you hanging upside down here?" Link asked, shocked. "Read the letter." The macaw snapped. In any case, the macaw would never say that it couldn't see because it was short. Ah Fu followed Link's method and pulled out another sketch from the crack. This sketch was of the front of the library in Shadu City. The steps of the city library, the fist sculpture of knowledge, the pillars of the library, and the grandeur of the library were all written on the paper. It was hard to imagine that such a realistic picture came from an ordinary pencil. Just this drawing skill alone could be called turning something rotten into something magical. Link flipped the painting again and saw the words on the back. Things remained the same, but people had changed, and their influence was not as great as before. Although they still heard the title of the King of Assassins, they admired the new generation like the Shining Nightmare more. "The two of them came to me 5 years ago. At that time, their abilities were already considered to have some small achievements, but I still didn't recommend them because they were too superstitious about their own power system and abilities. They only focused on strengthening their strengths and never considered making up for their weaknesses. I've already met and fought with Nightmare. In the past 5 years, his battle records and bounty have been constantly updated, but his strength has not grown. I've heard that the Shining Pixiu is out on a mission. I wonder if he has improved. After reading John's words, Link suddenly had an idea. Don't tell me John thinks I'm someone he can confide in. The more Link thought about it, the more likely it seemed. Although this old man had retired from the martial arts world, he was still a middle-aged man in his 40s. His wife had become a vegetable because of a car accident and was frozen in the depths of the land snow mountain. He was all alone, and his loved ones were only a door away from death. He had accumulated too many emotions that needed to be vented. As the only other person who knew the truth and the secret, Link naturally became John's confidant. Thinking of this, Link understood. That must be it. This guy probably thinks I'm the one who told him. Later, Fu brought the third sketch. This time, the scene was a coliseum located on the delta. A huge black tortoise-shaped coliseum lay on the delta as if it was suppressing the sketch. With just a few strokes, he had clearly outlined the depression and prosperity of the slums and uptown. Behind it was still what John had seen, heard, and realized in the Sand City during this period of time. The fourth was the Noah Divine Tree. Link's brows furrowed. If the previous sketch was a stroke of luck by John, the answer was obvious now that the 4 paintings were in front of Link. These were all places Link had been to. The United Pharmaceutical Company, the City Library, the Coliseum, and the Moon Shadow Council's Noah Divine Tree. It had been a week since John had appeared in the Link gang. I can't believe he's been paying attention to me all this time, Link muttered to himself. In other words, John knew everything about his improvements and gains during this period of time. What is this guy trying to do? Link thought for a long time but still couldn't figure out John's purpose. Recommend me to the Platinum Hotel and let me become the target of public criticism? And now, he had sent him so many paintings and letters to express his thoughts. Boss, this is the last painting. Ah Fu took out the last piece of paper and handed it to Link. The picture showed an old warehouse on the dock, and the other half of the picture depicted a sparkling dock. The details in the picture were on point, and the words on the brick wall of the warehouse could be seen clearly. Link flipped to the back and started reading John's diary. I came to Shandu this time just for an agreement with an old friend. However, in the past few days, when I visited a few of my old friends uninvited, I accidentally learned that Masha's car accident 5 years ago didn't seem to be a simple accident. Thinking back to the bits and pieces of the past 10 years, I seemed to vaguely feel that there was a conspiracy sweeping over my head. I don't know if I should continue to investigate, but I've lost a lot of memories in the corner. If someone can help me find them now, maybe I will have an answer. After reading the text, Link could clearly see John's internal struggle. In his previous life, Link had learned most of what had happened between John and Marcia from the players on the forums, and the players had also learned about it from the high-level NPCs. Now, John had personally said that there was something else to his wife's death. He had vaguely guessed the other party's identity, but he was hesitant about whether to take action. At the same time, Link also noticed something strange about the text. There might be an answer if someone can help me find the memories I've abandoned in the corner. John had sent these boxes to Link through express delivery. Now, the letter said that he hoped someone would regain his memory. Wasn't this a hint to Link to help him? Of course, the strangest thing was that Link had never been to the abandoned warehouse in the image. From the outline, Link could tell that it was in the slums, but he had no idea where exactly it was. Could it be that there's something John left for me in this warehouse? Just as Link was feeling puzzled, the system sent him a bright notification. You have triggered the A-rank chain mission, the King of Assassins request. Accept/reject. Chapter 144, Dual Main Storyline Mission on Wasteland Planet. Link's pupils contracted. It was actually an A-rank mission. Since even the system had backed him up, Link had no need to doubt the authenticity of the 5 sketches and the words behind them. All of this was indeed the work of the King of Assassins, John. Link finally realized what was going on, and his eyes curved into crescents as he smiled. The system had already made it very clear. An A-rank chain mission. What was the meaning of this? This meant that Link had successfully triggered the first part of the main mission on Wasteland Planet. As long as Link accepted this mission, he would be able to complete both main missions on Wasteland Planet. The main storyline was the King of Assassins' request on the surface, and the main storyline was the revenge of the mandala in the dark. Lin Ke returned to his senses from the brief blank in his mind. He looked at the floating frame that appeared on the system screen but did not make a decision. If I accept this A-rank mission, then John will be the main character of the Wasteland Planet. I have to ensure his safety. The problem was that in the plot of his previous life, John would not have lived to the open beta. If Link accepted this A-rank chain mission, he would have to ensure John's safety and let him live until the open beta, until the middle of Type 1 contact in version 2.0. He would be the chosen one of the Wasteland Planet and lead all the players into space. Everyone learned about John's death as the main storyline on Wasteland advanced. In order to resurrect his beloved wife, John had charged into the Machinery Faith's Machinery City alone to find a way to copy consciousness. However, he was discovered by the leader of the Machinery Faith, Professor Zhao, in the city. A level 40 legendary NPC fighting in the enemy's home territory with his comatose wife. In the end, the Machinery Faith successfully killed John at the cost of half of the Machinery Palace. At the same time, he also obtained his DNA and John's brain that had not completely died. Hence, the crazy Dr. Zhao came up with an evil plan to conquer the world. He used John's DNA to successfully create a clone and began to extract the data from John's brain. As long as the brain data was successfully extracted, part of the data of John's assassin ability would be retained, and the compiled program file of loyalty to the Machinery Faith and the destruction of other forces would be injected into it. Then, the Machinery Faith would obtain a king of assassins who was completely loyal to them. However, because John's brain had a super seal, the Machinery Faith had always failed to break through his brain's defenses and extract useful information. The main storyline in his previous life also started from here. The players needed to enter the Machinery Faith and rescue John's clone, who was also the savior of Wasteland Planet. What followed next was a series of epic-level missions and plots. The secrets and history of Wasteland Planet would be revealed bit by bit during the missions. As for the players who completed the main storyline mission, their actions would have a permanent impact on Wasteland Planet. It might even affect the position and storyline of Wasteland Planet when they entered the universe in the middle of version 2.0. Link had never expected that his first choice in his gaming life would be at such an ordinary 15:32 afternoon tea time. If he accepted this mission and John still went to the floating mech city to seek death, his A-rank chain mission would be over. If he allowed John to die and waited for the familiar plot from his previous life, then there would be another problem. Link had no idea how to trigger the main storyline mission in his previous life. After all, who would bring this up on the forum and say it out loud? The players who could get a grade A main storyline would not talk about how they triggered the plot. The players could only determine who had received the A-rank main storyline mission through the cutscenes, the fact that they had appeared in the same frame as Savior, and a reasonable analysis. If I accept the mission and let John live safely until the open beta. Lin Ke thought about it seriously. A level 40 legendary NPC. It could be said that it was the strongest individual existence on Wasteland Planet. Poison, imprisonment, and reason? You're thinking about Peach. If John could be persuaded with emotion, do you think he would choose to break into Floating Mech City alone with his wife behind his back? Mash's dot was like the switch of a big red nuclear bomb. John was usually calm and focused, but when Marcia was involved, boom. So, if I accept the mission, I only have one option to charge into the Floating Mech City with John and escape. Link's scalp went numb and he shuddered at the conclusion. As one of the 5 major extremist organizations on Wasteland Planet, the Machinery Faith had a strong foundation and believers all over the planet. At the end of version 1.0, the players completely destroyed the mech city under the leadership of Savior, and the church's power declined and went underground. When they entered space in the later stages of version 2.0, there were still remnants who tried to restore the religion, create various incidents, and spread ideas in the universe. It would be difficult to escape from the nest of such an extreme force with such a strong vitality. Even a level 40 legendary NPC couldn't do it, and with Link's help, it was possible. After a while, Link took a deep breath. I accept. Link suddenly accepted the mission with certainty. There were less than half a year left before the open beta and 5 months before John left for the floating mech city. Although he wouldn't be strong enough to fight against the city in 5 months, he felt that it was worth a try to protect John and Masha. An A-rank mission was an A-rank mission because if it didn't have any difficulty or risk, would it still be called the main line of the planet? Moreover, Link had another complete A-class planet Hidden Thread Mandala's revenge on him. He had to fight 7 of the Wasteland's top-tier NPCs at once. Breaking into the floating mech city to save people was nothing. Of course, the most important reason that made Link decide to accept the mission was that he did not know how to trigger the A-rank main storyline mission of the Savior of the World. Now that there was one in front of him, he had to accept it. You have accepted the A-rank chain mission, the King of Assassins request. The first phase of mission number 1, Retrieve Lost Memories, is now activated. Mission hint: please read the 5 paintings and John's mood diary carefully to find clues. Mission reward: 50,000 experience points. Additional reward will be given after the completion assessment. After reading the mission notification, Link realized that it was the same as the A-rank missions, the Revenge of the Mandala, and the S-rank missions, the Heart of the Swarm. There was very little information and clues. Basically, the way to complete the mission and the exploration were all up to the players. But now, Link knew what John's feelings diary meant. As expected of an A-rank mission. It's only the first round of searching for items, and I've already received 50,000 experience points. There's even an additional experience point. Third brother, he shouted, I'll give you a mission. Wanjun is done writing and going to sleep. Good night, everyone. Also, tell them that this will be placed at the end of the next chapter. It's too ugly to put it in the title. Chapter 145, Wind Chaser's Cultivation Plan. Hearing the voice, Mr. Kong immediately came to Link's side. Boss, do you have any orders? Link put away the draft nonchalantly and raised his head. Are there many abandoned warehouses at the docks in Shandu? Mr. Kong was stunned for a while. He didn't understand why his boss suddenly asked about the abandoned dock warehouse, but he still answered truthfully, most of the warehouses in Shandu are in the slums. However, there are quite a few abandoned warehouses upstream. They say that some old docks are going to be demolished for expansion. Link raised his hand. Then I'll give you a mission. Take a picture of all the abandoned warehouses. The canal, warehouses, walls, and streets must appear in the picture at the same time. Also, mark the locations on the map. Link then considered for a moment before saying, when Zui Feng and Dao Yang return, I will give this task to them. Don't worry, boss. I'll definitely remind you again and again. The main reason Link let Wind Chaser and the bandits carry out the mission was because of the danger level of the mission itself. Players could revive in minutes, but guild members could not. Link still couldn't figure out why John had deliberately used a hidden compartment to send items. If he was confiding, he could have sent the things over without anyone knowing. However, John had used a parcel, and the sender had written Painter John on the parcel. This was clearly to let others know the relationship between the two. Link was sure that the package had already been investigated by many people before it was delivered to the Link gang. However, even X-rays could not see the mystery of the layers of fluffy paper under the box. Obviously, Link couldn't discover the secret of the paper box on his own, but the treasure-hunting mouse was extremely sensitive to smells. It could detect the existence of the paper with different smells just by sniffing it. Link could already imagine how many spies from the other factions had gathered outside the gang. They were all waiting for Link to personally unravel the secret and then report what they saw to their boss. As Link muttered to himself, Wind Chaser and the bandit leader carefully walked into the alley on a cart and pushed in a miniature glass jar. The fresh soil and plants in the glass tank were filled with the aura of nature, as if it was a world of its own. The two of them looked through the barbed wire and saw Link in the yard. Their tired faces were once again filled with energy. They were like drowsy students who pretended to study hard after seeing their teacher. Call the two of them over and get someone to carry the glass jar to the bedroom. Very quickly, the thugs stepped forward to help wind-chasing Piaro and Bandit Liang move the goods. When they found out that their boss had called them over, they looked at each other in confusion. "Boss, what's the matter?" Link looked at the two of them. Wind had reached level 5, while Bandit Cool was level 4. "Zui Feng, I heard you were looking for a dojo today." Zui Feng was stunned for a moment before nodding. After completing the guild quest in the afternoon, the experience was enough for him to level up to level 5. In the afternoon, while he was doing his quests, he also asked the gang members where there was a martial arts hall. He was prepared to find time to go to the nearest martial arts hall and learn some skills to become a pugilist. However, the thief Lien Gren had no clue about the problem of choosing a class, and wanted to wait and see for a few days before making a decision. "Are you looking for a dojo to become a pugilist?" Link asked, his face expressionless. Zui Feng nodded with certainty. He had been playing the game for 15 years, and he had always chosen to play the indomitable warrior or pugilist type of character. He had a deep understanding of this class, and it suited his character. "No regrets?" "I don't regret." "Then you don't have to go to the dojo. I'll teach you." After all this preparation, Link finally showed his claws. At the same time, 2 lines of prompt appeared on Wind-Chasing Wolf's system. "Link has taught you the Pugilist Basic Skill Protective Aura LVL1. Do you accept? 100 experience points will be consumed to accept the mission. Link would like to teach you the Pugilist Basic Skill Forward Punch LV1. Do you accept? 100 experience points will be consumed to accept the mission." Wind-Chasing Wolf looked at the system prompt, his mind went blank and his face was full of shock. Uptown. Inside a huge skyscraper with the word M printed on it. The secretary's entire body was tense as he carefully reported. Although he tried his best to suppress it, the trembling in his voice could still be heard. "Boss, all 5 parcels have been inspected. They are all empty. There is nothing inside. Boss, we've placed spies around the Link Gang. As long as anyone from the Link Gang leaves, we'll follow them from all directions. From their actions, we can decipher the true meaning of the painter's package. Also, Ying Luo, do you want to monitor the sender's address?" Morose sat on the boss's chair and looked out at the Sand City through the huge floor-to-ceiling windows. Almost everything in sight was his property. Morose could not help but laugh when he heard his secretary's words. "Kohler, you haven't suffered since you started following me, have you?" "Yes." Secretary Kohler quickly lowered his head. "I don't dare." "Then aren't you asking for trouble by sending people to tail John?" Morose shook his head helplessly and did not know whether to laugh or cry. Only 5 years had passed, and these young people had already forgotten the fear of being dominated by John? However, it was true that since John chose to wash his hands of the matter 5 years ago, a lot of information and deeds about him had been destroyed. Kohler's face was filled with hesitation, and he bent even lower. "Boss, is the painter really as powerful as the rumors say?" Morose sneered and exhaled a puff of smoke. "It's 100 times more powerful than you think." Kohler's expression instantly stiffened. He had thought that even if his strength wasn't on par with the painter, it wasn't far from it. He didn't expect the boss to give such an evaluation. Morose had a sharp eye for people and his evaluation of them was on point. Even General Alongso, the chief of the Sand Capital, praised Morose for his unique insight. Kohler had been working for Morose for 7 years and had heard many comments from Morose. He could often describe Morose's characteristics with the least amount of words. Also, recall all the scouts at the entrance of the Link Gang. John used the parcel delivery method because he wanted to put this matter out in the open. If you can't find anything, that's because you're not strong enough. It's not my style to pester you. I have to be able to let go. Okay boss, I know what to do. Morose glanced at Kohler and saw that he had lowered his head, his neck was red, and his fists were clenched. It was obvious that he was still brooding over this defeat. No hurry, this game has just begun. Don't care about the gains and losses of a pawn, you have to learn to look at the whole world. Chapter 146 The Advantage of a Pugilist. Wind-chasing Piaro and thief Liang Ren were hiding in the dormitory. There was no one in the dormitory at the moment, so it became the best place to chat. Isn't Link a scholar? Why is he able to teach the skills of a pugilist? Could this be the specialty of the erudite class, knowing all the skills of all classes? Liang Ren guessed, but he immediately shook his head. Learning all the class skills, wouldn't that make you invincible? The game definitely wouldn't allow such a bug to exist. Wind-chasing Wolf's face showed a trace of joy, but no matter what, I don't need to go to the dojo to learn skills. In the future, even if I upgrade my skills, I can directly look for boss. This is a wonderful wave. In the basic settings of the game that the game company had given to the Wind Chaser Guild, if one wanted to learn skills, they had to find an NPC of the corresponding profession to teach them. If one wanted to become a pugilist, they would need to pay an NPC in a dojo to teach them. Quick, tell me what the effects of your 2 basic skills are. The bandit Liang person urged from the side, his eyes filled with anticipation. Wind looked at the skill and summarized the words. Forward punch increases movement speed by 10% and deals 30 points of damage to the target. The protective dipper energy is more like a passive skill. Hit rate, attack speed, and resistance are all increased by 1%, and there is also an additional 1 point of endurance and strength. 1 point of endurance and strength. Dao Liang Ren's eyes widened as if he had heard something unbelievable. The bandit leader was instantly jealous. In the early stages of the game, a level up only gave 3 potential points, but a pugilist's protective aura shield level 1 gave 2 attribute points. Speaking of this, Zui Feng grinned, revealing his white teeth. Looking at it now, pugilist is definitely a strong early game job. I've decided that I won't level up for a while. I'll save all my experience points for the protective dipper energy to level up. As a veteran player with more than 10 years of gaming experience, Wind-chasing Wolf could see the strength of a pugilist at a glance. Level 1 Protective Dipper Energy added 2 attribute points and Level 2 Protective Dipper Energy added 4 attribute points. Therefore, the benefits of upgrading Protective Dipper Energy in the early stages were much greater than directly upgrading. If you're envious, you can go to an old university. It's not like you don't have 200 experience points. Dao Yang Ren shook his head. He didn't like this kind of open and close combat. For one, he was afraid of pain, and for 2, he preferred to secretly attack from a distance. This reflected the bad taste of the big boss of a listed company worth billions. Perhaps it was because she was always the focus of the spotlight in real life, but she liked to do it the other way around in the game. She wanted to try out the feeling of hiding in the shadows. Zui Feng suddenly leaned forward and said, "Don't you like long-range damage output? The Gunmaster and the Lurker meet your requirements. If not, you can try it out with boss later. Maybe he really knows how to do it. By then, you won't have to be blind and look for professional trainers all over the city." Dao Yang Ren considered for a moment and nodded. After all, now that he had joined a guild, there would be conflicts in the future missions. After choosing a profession and learning skills, their combat power would also be strengthened, and it would be easier for them to complete missions. If there was a hatchet man in the dormitory and he saw Zui Feng and Dao Yang sticking together, his eyes would definitely pop out. In the morning, the two of them had even exposed each other's secrets and cursed at each other, as if they were fire and water. But now, the two of them were like Siamese twins, and there was no gap at all. Of course, the reason was that Wind and the bandit leaders had successfully joined the Link gang, so there was no direct conflict of interest between the two. Therefore, when they went out to purchase the miniature landscape glass tank today, the two of them reached an agreement to work hand in hand and exchange what they needed. After all, Link was a mysterious NPC. His story and secrets couldn't be dug out by one person. In addition, Link was the leader of his gang. As an open-minded gang leader, he treated inhumans very well and treated them equally. As a result, Wind Chasing Wolf and Dao Yang both felt a sense of crisis. During the closed beta, Link wasn't famous, so the two of them could still hide and get some benefits. Once the open beta started, players would start to flood in, and the Link gang would definitely expand. When the players realized how extraordinary Link was, they would all choose to join him and get a share of the loot. At that time, the benefits of Wind Chasing Wolf and Bandit Cool People, who had joined first, would be reduced. One of them was the Guild Master of Miracle, and the other was the boss of a listed company worth billions. There was no deep hatred between them, so they naturally hit it off and decided to work together to crack the mystery behind this mysterious NPC. I'll finish the photo shoot mission tonight and get the experience. I'll come back and try it out with boss. I'll see if I can learn skills from other classes. Dao Yang Ren said. After dinner, third brother brought over cameras, searchlights, and a large map of the slums. Then, he asked the thug who was more familiar with the dock warehouse to introduce the situation and routes of the slums coastal dock to the two. Soon after, the wind-chasing PRO and Dao Yang Ren patted their shoulders and guaranteed that they would complete the mission, valiantly and spiritedly setting off. See, this was the confidence of locking onto a class and learning a skill. Link was sitting in his office. He had gained 200 experience points after teaching Wind Indiana the afternoon. Although it was a drop in the bucket for Link, at least it confirmed his previous guess. As an NPC, not only could he issue missions, but he could also impart skills. 200 EXP for one person was a small amount, but what if there were thousands of players? Furthermore, learning skills was not just a one-time thing. In the future, players could also come to him to level up their skills. And after teaching Wind Chasing Wolf skills, a new function appeared on his skill interface display. Lin K could choose a skill and show it to the players. The players could then make their own choices from the skills displayed and learn which one. This function was similar to a buffet. Link looked at his skills. Other than Misfortune Bullet LV1, which was the only exclusive skill generated by the erudite profession, all the other skills could be displayed on the interface for players to learn. Link then categorized the skills. Pugilist, Protective Upstanding Chi level 10, Charging Fist level 1. Pugilist Rogue, Hidden Weapons level 1. General category, Poisoning level 1, Coin Divination level 1, Eye of the Beast level 1. Pugilists and mechanics are the mainstream players on Wasteland. Many Esper and Mystic players chose Victoria and Pandora directly, so there are fewer players on Wasteland. Looks like I'll have to find time to level up and learn some mechanic skills in the following period of time. Link peeked at the resting area through the gap in the blinds. The hatchet men who had gone out to the fitness center and shooting range for training today had returned. At this time, everyone was holding a bottle of cold beer and watching the program of the Shadow TV station. The macaw was among them, chattering and cursing at the plot that had been pulled out of place. Link pressed a button on the table. "Boss, you're looking for me. I'm a little tired today, so I'll rest first. If Zui Feng and Dao Yang come back, you can just put the things on the office table. I will look at it tomorrow morning." Number 3 nodded and kept it in mind. Link returned to his bedroom and fed the blood slug in the glass jar and the self-destructing fly outside. He then lay on his bed and fell asleep soon after. After Link fell asleep, the treasure-hunting mouse peeked out with its bright eyes and sneaked out of the balcony. Chapter 147. You call this a low-level dungeon? When Zui Feng and Dao Yangren finished their mission and returned, it was already early in the morning. To be able to make a big boss worth billions of dollars be my driver, I can blow this wave of bragging. Zui Feng laughed as he got off the car. Third brother had even thoughtfully given them a car for their mission this time. Because Zui Feng didn't know how to drive, this important task was given to the thief Liang Ren. However, it was also because of this that the thief accidentally activated his first special skill, Progress Elementary Driving, 20%. This game is so realistic. I didn't expect that driving can activate a special ability. My beginner driving progress is already at 20%. It seems that I have to find an opportunity to drive more in the future and get this specialty as soon as possible. So can you see the effect of beginner driving now? Wind Chasing Wolf had a camera on his neck, a searchlight on his waist, and a map. The bandit Liang Ren shook his head helplessly. Because he had not yet fully mastered his specialty, he could not see the effect. When the two returned to the Link clan, many people had already laid down to rest. At the door and the courtyard, there were brothers on night duty. When they entered the rest area, they saw Mr. Kong waiting for them. Third brother, the mission was successfully completed. We've taken down all the abandoned warehouses along the dock. Zui Feng put the camera and searchlight on the table, and the bandit leader was responsible for spreading out the map. The abandoned warehouses on the map were all marked and numbered, and the corresponding numbers were written on the back of the photos with a marker. Number 3 checked the photos. All the photos were in accordance with boss's rules, and there was no omission. Not bad, you've done an outstanding job in this mission. This is your mission reward. I'll put it in the office. Boss will see it tomorrow when he wakes up. You guys should also go and rest. Wind Chaser and the bandit leader received the money and experience points happily. The only regret was that the bandit leader could not find Link to unlock his class and learn skills. When he arrived at the dormitory door, he found that the lights inside had been turned off. Everyone was basically asleep. Zui Feng and Dao Yangren bent their waists and tiptoed back to their beds. Creak creak creak. Just as her butt touched the bed, the wooden bed made a slight sound. But in an instant, the light in the bedroom was turned on. The snoring thugs all got up from their beds and stared at Zui Feng and Dao Yangren with wide eyes. The two of them were so frightened that they immediately shrank back into the bed and leaned against the corner of the wall, looking dumbfounded. Are you two preparing to return to the blue planet? This time, don't hide in the blanket. Just show us how you disappear. The hatchet men's eyes were bright and full of spirit, not a trace of fatigue could be seen. They had been waiting for the whole night just for this wave, so everyone had been waiting for Zui Feng and Dao Yang to return. Zui Feng and Dao Yang looked at each other, their eyes filled with helplessness. This was the first time that he was being watched as a rare event when he went offline while playing a game. However, to their surprise, this request was also counted as an E-rank mission by the system. Then don't blink and watch. Wind Chasing Wolf counted down and then disappeared into thin air. The hatchet men all let out exclamations and seethed with excitement. Even third brother, who was leaning against the door and watching the show, couldn't help but let his glasses slip from the bridge of his nose. He was stunned. A living person had disappeared from the bed without any hesitation, not leaving a single trace. A few seconds later, the thief Liang on the other side also disappeared into thin air, and the thugs once again set off a wave of exclamations. All right, we've finished watching. Let's go to sleep. After third brother finished speaking at the door, he reached out to turn off the lights in the dormitory. He also returned to his room, took off his glasses, and let out a long sigh. Although they had accepted the identity of Zui Feng and Dao Yangren as mutants, the special abilities they had were still a huge shock to people. The next day, early in the morning, Link was woken up by an itch. His clear consciousness gradually dispelled the feeling of dizziness, and his heart began to beat strongly, pushing the slow and sticky blood to all parts of his body at a high speed. Whew! Link let out a deep breath. His body was fully awake. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw the treasure-hunting mouse lying in front of him, staring at him. Seeing her innocent eyes, Link's heart skipped a beat. He had a bad feeling. "Did you go out to steal again last night?" The treasure-hunting mouse shook its head and pointed at the sky with its claws, squeaking to show that it had not stolen anything. Link tilted his head and looked at the chair by the window. It was indeed empty. He let out a sigh of relief. Every day, Link would wake up in fear. To borrow Agen's famous saying, "Life is like a box of chocolate, you never know what the next one will taste like." To Link, life was like a time bomb. He never knew what the treasure-hunting mouse would bring him the next morning. Yesterday's gold-plated porcelain cups had already made Link anxious. Who knew what would happen today? Seeing that there was nothing, Link let out a long sigh of relief. As he got up and put on his clothes, Link walked to the glass tank and scanned it. He found that the blood slugs were living comfortably in the miniature landscape. The shells on their backs had a visible trace of red, constantly converting the nutrients they absorbed into blood for treatment. After washing up and putting on his clothes, Link entered his office. The newspaper and breakfast had already been prepared in advance. Through the blinds, Link saw the macaw chirping at the side, instructing Wind Chaser and the bandit leaders to build a nest for it. Link shook his head and took a bite of his sandwich. He then logged into the system and browsed the forums. After joining the Link gang, the famous internet celebrity, the Wind Chasing, no longer posted anything and had stopped updating. Not only did the players not receive any news of the dungeon's success, but they had also disappeared. Therefore, some players in Shandu found the gunfight in the hotel instance dungeon according to the map. After reaching level 5, they saved money to buy 2 guns and tried the instance dungeon. That was why the post that Lin K was reading now was titled, "There's definitely something wrong with the dungeon difficulty of this game." I was born near Shandu. After reading guild leader Wind Chaser's post, I learned that the basic dungeon had been opened, so I came to the slums from a small place near Shandu. I had 2 second-hand pistols. One was bought, and the other was given to me when I was doing a mission. Just as I entered the dungeon at level 5 with confidence, my dream shattered. I just want to say that this instance dungeon is really difficult. After I died 5 times, I basically understood this instance dungeon. The opponents were 10 members of the Jack gang, and the goal of clearing the game was to kill 10 people and escape from the hotel. In the corridor battle, I had to be the first to block the stairs. I had tried all these methods, but these enemies' AI were too high. They even knew how to double flank me. Each hatchet man's HP was around 120-150, and each shot dealt around 30 points of damage. In other words, if one wanted to kill one person, they would need to hit 5 times. There were a total of 10 people, which meant that it would take 50 shots to kill these thugs. Unless you were a sharpshooter with a headshot that dealt 5 times the damage, you would still need 10 shots to kill your opponent. Not to mention, you can't even imagine how strong the firepower of 10 enemies is. In short, I've tried all sorts of methods, but they all ended in failure. I just want to say that the game fate is too hard. You're actually telling me that this is a beginner-level instance dungeon? I'm even suspecting that there's something wrong with the game company's settings for instance dungeons. Although I'm not an expert player, I'm still an experienced veteran player. It's so uncomfortable to be stuck in a low-level dungeon. Chapter 148 Treasure Hunting Mouse's Masterpiece. This post resonated with many closed beta players, and they started to complain about the game. Player 1, stop it. I just want to know why this game doesn't have a HP recovery setting. King fell down the stairs and lost more than 10 HP. I didn't recover it and could only recover it when I level up. Player 2, I know that the hospital has a medical chamber that can recover HP, but it costs at least 500 wasteland coins each time. I'm too poor to enter the hospital. Player 3, since you've said so, I'll tell you something even more despairing. I've seen people selling secondary health potions in the game. The health potions can recover 100 health points one-time use, and the price is 30,000 wasteland coins. Player 4, what the F***ck, a lesser health potion costs 30,000 wasteland coins. How long will it take for me to save up enough? Would Fate have a top-up window during the open beta? If that was the case, only the rich could afford to play. The players had a lot of complaints about the difficulty of the gunfight at the hotel instance, and in the end, everyone just complained in the comments section. The most interesting thing was that the official account even replied to the content of the closed beta players post. Dear player, we have received your feedback. According to the inquiry of our staff, we found that the value and setting of the instance dungeon are all normal. Moreover, all the instance dungeons in the game are generated based on real cases that have happened in the game. We are only responsible for transplanting the scenes and settings to make them into instance dungeons. There is absolutely no situation where the staff actively design the instance dungeons. If you still feel that the difficulty of the dungeon is too high, I suggest you level up, choose a profession, upgrade your equipment, and then continue the challenge. What happened next was a mess. It turned into a scene of a large-scale teasing of the game company's staff. However, the players also received an important piece of information. All the dungeons in the game were adapted based on events that happened in reality. The programmers only copied the scenes and settings from the original and made them into independent dungeons. Link couldn't help but laugh after reading the message. There are players who went to the hotel gunfight instance dungeon at level 5. The reason why Link was able to defeat all of them at level 5 was that he had a powerful grape shotgun, his rich combat experience from his previous life, and the treasure hunting mouse's information. That was why he was able to defeat 10 of the Jack Gang's hatchet men without suffering any damage. However, for these players, if they wanted to fight 10 level 5 fighters of the Jack Gang alone, they would probably have to reach level 10, choose a class, learn skills, and change to good weapons. Link left the forum and slowly ate his sandwich. He took a sip of coffee and picked up the newspaper. The Wasteland Morning Post was still one of the 3 major special cities of the Freedom Federation. It was still a cliché topic about the need to strengthen defense and security. The subsection was about the human realm, and if an extraterrestrial civilization was discovered on Wasteland, what attitude would the two sides have in their relationship? This was clearly to start laying the foundation for this Inhumans invasion incident at the official level. He put down the Wasteland Star Morning Post and picked up the other copy of Shandu Entertainment News. The front page was a photo of a rampaging rat. In the photo, the streets were densely packed with rats, especially under the strong light. It could be seen that the entire street was occupied by rats, and there was no other space. If people with trypophobia saw this picture, they would probably have an attack immediately. A rat disaster ran rampant in the slums overnight. Why did tens of thousands of rats rush to the streets at the same time? After reading the title, Link slowly put down the newspaper and stared sharply at the back of the treasure-hunting mouse, who was eating nuts for breakfast. "Little treasure, did you do something that you forgot to tell me?" Link asked calmly. The treasure-hunting mouse's round back suddenly trembled, and the melon seed in its hand fell on the table. It stopped moving and began to play dead. "Turn around." The treasure-hunting mouse's shoulders trembled again. It turned around with small steps and stared at Link with its innocent eyes. Link continued to read the newspaper and roughly understood the whole story. It was around 2 in the morning, when the slums were still at night, when a sudden buzzing sound came from underground. Then, the rats in many places in the slums started to run out of the sewers, garbage piles, and residential buildings. They gathered in an abandoned park. According to the witnesses in the residential buildings, thousands of rats swarmed the streets, and the scene was quite terrifying. The whole process lasted for nearly an hour. During this time, reporters rushed to the scene and captured the scene of the rats in the small park. Then the rats scattered in all directions. The reporters' cars that were parked outside the park were all bitten by the rats that had lost control on the way back. The reporter had managed to escape by jumping onto a tree at the critical moment. At the end of the news headline, the reporter contacted a biologist in Shandu and asked about the cause of the sudden incident. The scientists attributed it to the possibility of a major natural disaster in the near future, causing the rats to go out and hide in the open. After Link finished reading the entire report, he put it down on the table. He crossed his arms and stared at the treasure-hunting mouse. "Tell me, what happened?" The treasure-hunting mouse knelt on the table with a plop. Its small eyes were slightly moist, and it was about to cry. It kept squeaking. "Stop, wait." The little guy spoke too fast, and he couldn't quite understand. At this time, he needed a fat translator to come on stage. Link stood up and walked to the glass window. He pulled open the blinds and knocked on the glass. The macaw in the resting room, who was in charge of the two people's work, turned around when it heard the sound. Seeing Link's gesture, it said angrily, "To exploit an animal so early in the morning, there's no one else like that." After saying this, he turned back to Zui Feng and Dao Yangren and said, "The two of you, remember, this nest must be spacious and big. I'll go in first and see what's going on." Zui Feng and Dao Yang quickly nodded and continued to nail the wooden board. After the macaw entered the office, the two of them whispered, "Don't you think it's strange, when this parrot first came here, it clearly couldn't speak a single sentence coherently. How did it become a spirit after only one day?" "You don't say, this guy has a way of scolding people. I heard from others that in just one night, he has become familiar with the other hatchet men. He can pick up any topic of conversation. Have you noticed that the animals in the gang seem to be quite intelligent? When did you hear the guard dog at the door bark? In the animal arena, he killed the mutated wolf king with a single glance. It was very strange. The two eagles in the cardboard boxes did not run around for a day. The little mouse in the boss's hand was also very obedient. They're the tigers and lions I saw in the basement last time. They're wild and scary, but I heard they were sold yesterday afternoon." Dao Yangren said. "Hiss, I've also heard about this from the other people in the gang. I heard that boss is good at taming beasts. Did you hear? When we went out for a mission yesterday, the former number 1 assassin on Wasteland Planet, the painter, sent something to boss." "How much do you know about the number 1 assassin?" Zui Feng asked. The bandit Liang simply shook his head. "Let's see if we can get some information out of the gang today. I have a feeling that boss and this artist have a special relationship." Chapter 149 Link's Secret Plan. The macaw was called to the office. When it saw the treasure-hunting mouse's pitiful look, it quickly stretched out its wings and gently patted the treasure-hunting mouse's honest back. "Lil Bao, let's talk slowly. If Link wants to exploit you, let me know. I'll help you." The relationship between the macaw and the other pets was very good. Of course, the hellhound that rolled it into a ball was an exception. The treasure-hunting mouse began to tell them what had happened in the park in the early morning. After the macaw heard this, it protected the wings of the treasure-hunting mouse and retreated decisively. "Damn it, I thought Link was the biggest capitalist. It turns out that you can control tens of thousands of rats. You're the true king of the slums." After complaining, the macaw turned around and translated for Link. Xiao Bao said that he wanted to go out for a walk and see if he could get anything, but he met other rats in the park and they almost fought. Then, Xiao Bao had no choice but to use the rat group gathering and control the rats with telekinesis. In the end, because it was his first time, he was not skilled enough, and he summoned all the rats within 5 kilometers. In my opinion, you can't blame Xiao Bao for this. If you want to blame someone, blame the group of tyrants in the park. They saw that Xiao Bao was easy to bully and used their numbers to bully the few. If I were here, I would definitely put my mouth on them and line them up like a barbecue. The macaw's comments were quite graphic. Link's eyes brightened. He realized that the macaw would attack the enemy with heavy punches and talk to him sarcastically. It seemed to be getting along well with the pets. Link knew the truth behind Xiao Bao's activation of the skill, so he had no reason to blame him. He just emphasized, in the future, if you feel that something is wrong, come back. It's better to use this kind of large-scale skill less. On one hand, Link was worried that the treasure hunting mouse's skill would be exposed. On the other hand, Rat Swarm Assembly had a cooldown of 5 days. As a key strategic skill, he couldn't use it casually. The treasure hunting mouse nodded repeatedly, indicating that it would definitely not cause any trouble in the future. Of course, Link didn't take the rat's promise too seriously. As long as the rat behaved itself for the next few days and didn't scare him, it would be fine. Oh right, old Jin, when you go out, call for third brother. As expected of a capitalist. After translating, you still have to extract some remaining value. The macaw complained as it went out, then used its loudspeaker-like voice to call for Mr. Kong. Boss, you're looking for me. Link nodded. I'll give you a mission. Go to the market and help me buy a live sow. Choose one with good looks. No 3's first thought was that it had something to do with the little pig in the basement. Thinking that Lola would come to the Link gang again tomorrow or the day after, it must be the boss's plan. Don't worry, boss. I'll go and arrange to buy a good sow now. After number 3 left, Link picked up the newspaper and continued reading. The two newspapers, Focused Science and Street Corner, also divided the time to discuss the rat riot in the early morning. Focused Science explained the riot from a scientific point of view. It was full of magnetic field changes and the possibility of earthquakes or extreme weather near Sandu. On the other hand, Streets and Alleys had a lot of conspiracy theories. They believed that some kind of experiment was being carried out under the park to control the minds of rats to achieve some unspeakable purpose. Of course, when the two newspapers were read together, the gossip newspaper's statement was naturally more eye-catching. Hiss, this Streets and Alleys is really something. A gossip newspaper can actually guess the truth time and time again through the jokes of gossip. If Link did not know the background of the founder of the newspaper, he would have thought that he was the official mouthpiece. Some things that could not be said were said in a joking tone through the gossip newspaper. After reading the newspaper, Link opened the documents on the table. This was the result of Zui Feng and Dao Yangren's hard work last night. All the photos of the abandoned docks and warehouses in the slums were in Link's hands. Link didn't look at the map. He picked up a stack of photos and started flipping through them. Very quickly, Link found a picture that looked exactly like the one the painter had drawn on the abandoned warehouse. Although the color of the picture and the wall was a little strange due to the searchlight being turned on at night, Link still recognized the pattern at a glance. He then flipped through the photos and found the address of the old warehouse according to photo number 7. After locking in on the address, Link's pupils shrank. He saw the White Crane Hall, which was only one street away from the ruins. Link was sure that John had deliberately placed the items in an old warehouse near the White Crane Hall. According to John's casual writing, back then, I lost a lot of memories in the corner. If someone can help me find them now, I might have an answer. He was clearly hinting to Link that he had left something in this abandoned warehouse for Link to retrieve. Link put down the picture and closed the map. He looked at the calendar on his desk and thought about his schedule for the next few days. Today, third brother would bring the sow over, and at night, he could let the little fragrant pig start breeding. With the self-destructing fly as a precedent, Link's conjecture was confirmed by the fact that the sand eagle and the white-blade sea eagle had laid 3 eggs. Previously, Link had thought that the rapid reproduction rate of the self-destructing flies was due to their own characteristics. The sand eagle and the white saber sea eagle had only been together for a few days, and they had laid 3 eggs. Lin K could basically confirm that any creature that was synthesized would have a much shorter breeding cycle. If the little pig worked harder tonight, Link would be able to check the quality of the meat soon. Tomorrow, he would deal with Laura, who came prepared. The day after tomorrow, it would be the day when White Crane Hall would collect the monthly rent. Then, on the weekend, it would be the preliminaries of the rare animal beauty pageant. At that time, it would be time for Vanilla Mud Horse to take action and capture the hearts of the uptown celebrities and nobles. Link looked at his schedule for the next period of time. It was quite tight. Link's heart ached at the thought of paying 300,000 to White Crane Hall. Looks like I can only wait until the weekend to go to the animal arena and earn some money. But as soon as he finished speaking, an idea flashed through Link's mind. Link lowered his head in deep thought. Then his smile grew even more radiant. This time, it seems like we can play a big round of cricket fighting. Link's gaze was focused on the treasure-hunting mouse, who was still munching on melon seeds at the small table. Sensing its master's burning gaze, the treasure-hunting mouse's chubby body trembled again, having a bad feeling. She turned around stiffly and saw Link's bright smile. The ominous feeling grew stronger. Link reached out and patted the treasure-hunting mouse's head and back. "Little treasure, eat more for the next few days. I'll still be relying on you in 5 days." 150 Chapter 150 The Newman family's capital. 23rd of April. It was clear. Today is the most uneventful day I've had since I came to Shadu. At noon, third brother brought over a white and chubby sow. According to number 3, he had specially asked someone who knew the industry to buy it. It was a sow that had just come of age and had not given birth yet. Before I could say anything, the macaw at the side started criticizing him, saying that my third brother was just putting on a show. It also said things like a 1,000-mile dam will collapse under our feet and so on. If this continued, the Link gang would definitely be finished. From this, it seemed that the Link gang had no shortage of pill parties. Of course, I could also tell that the macaw was being sour. According to my understanding of macaw over the past 2 days, this fellow was a all-mouthy king and a theoretical veteran. However, in reality, he was a senior film magician who had been single for 30 years. In the end, in order to ensure that the breeding went smoothly, third brother added an aphrodisiac to the pig feed. According to number 3, the pig seller said that he was going to do breeding, so it was a free gift. The medicine was very effective, and no pig had ever been able to quietly stay with a sow for an entire night after taking the medicine. After locking the pigs in the cage and arranging the pig feed, third brother and I left the basement. The large black iron cage, the pig feed mixed with aphrodisiacs, the basement with no one around, and the faint fragrance of the vanilla mud horse that complemented the atmosphere, everything was just right. Not long after I left, Treasure Hunting Mouse said that there was a pig-like cry in the basement. It was worried that something had happened to the little pig. "Silly child, you'll understand when you grow up," I said, stroking its head. However, after I finished speaking, I suddenly realized that little Treasure was an adult rat now, and he could do it legally. And so, a bold idea came to my mind to complement my previous plan. If the plan was successful, then White Crane Hall would have nothing to do in the future. Even though I didn't say it out loud, I could tell that little Treasure seemed to have realized something. At noon, Bandit Liang came into the office to learn a skill. He said that he liked long-range and more mysterious skills. I went with the flow and recommended him to learn hidden weapons. He successfully became a pugilist lurker and earned another 100 experience. It seemed that the next time he went to the library, he would have to learn the follow-up skills of the stalker. In the afternoon, everyone went to the fitness center and shooting range. He sparred with the other guild members in the octagonal cage for an hour before he managed to level up basic combat from level 1 to level 2. By the end of the fight, no one was willing to fight me anymore. Everyone avoided my gaze. Zui Feng and Dao Liangren made an excuse to go to the bathroom, but they didn't come out for half an hour. Sigh, it's really hard to gain experience for a specialty. I think, if I were to fight with Li Zijun in the octagonal cage with my bare hands, I'm afraid I'd be able to reach level 10 in an hour. Cross it out and you'll definitely be beaten up into a pig's head. After that, everyone went to the shooting range. This time, basic shooting improved very quickly. Under the situation where every shot hit a vital point, the proficiency rose rapidly, directly rising from level 1 to level 3. It seemed like he had displayed extraordinary strength this afternoon, and the loyalty of some of the gang members had increased slightly. The loyal team had 3 more people. The ones who had the strongest reaction were none other than wind-chasing Pro and bandit Liang Ren. After these 2 people saw my attack, their eyes were shining as if they were looking at a huge treasure. When we stopped at the entrance, Xiao Bao told me that he sensed a few auras following him. These people must have been monitoring the Link gang 24 hours a day ever since the painter sent the package. Fortunately, I wasn't in a hurry to retrieve the things left behind by the artist. After we entered, Little Treasure told me that he could still hear the fierce pig's cries in the basement. I thought to myself, this round of breeding is in the bag. After that, I checked the eggs of the sand eagle and the white blade sea eagle and brought them fresh meat and milk. According to Old Jin, it would probably hatch in a day or 2. He thought that he would have to spend an ordinary day like this, but a text message broke the peace at the end of the night. I'll give you a surprise tomorrow. Sender, Lola Newman. When I opened my phone and saw the message, I had goosebumps all over and shivered. The message had the unique playful tone of a little woman, which was very different from the style that Lola had used when she came to help Link. However, in my opinion, it's not cute at all. It's quite creepy. Bring in surprise. I've already thought about it. When Lola comes tomorrow, she'll definitely bring a little pig to mate with the little pig. However, she would never have thought that the little pig's body had been squeezed dry by the medicine today, and there was really not a drop left. Even if a beautiful pig was placed in front of it tomorrow, the little pig would probably be powerless and could only talk about dreams and the past. The next day, Link had woken up early and was waiting for her at his place. However, when Link stood at the door and saw Laura walk in from the alley, he couldn't help but gasp. Looks like the Newman family has really put in a lot of money this time around, hee. Laura was still wearing a black suit today, but it had been changed into a slim suit, which showed her exquisite figure and long legs. If that was all, Link wouldn't have to say that. It was mainly because there was a girl in a floral dress beside Laura. Link looked at the time. It was only 10 in the morning. The sun shone on the girl's white skin, giving off a holy aura. Her long flaxen hair fluttered in the wind, and she had a light green bow tied at the back. She swayed up and down slightly with her footsteps, and her entire body was filled with the aura of youth. Her eyes seemed to be embedded with 2 sapphires. Her bright eyes and white teeth were beautiful and moving, giving people the feeling that she was a fairy that had descended to the mortal world. Who can stop this? I'm going to hang up, you guys do as you please. The macaw stretched out its wings and patted Link's back. You're on your own. It's fine if you can't take it and submit. It's not embarrassing, it's really not embarrassing. The treasure-hunting mouse stuck its head out of Link's pocket and saw Laura and the mysterious girl. Its rice-sized eyes were fixed on the mysterious girl, and it was dumbfounded. Link's henchmen were also unable to control themselves. He had seen a lot of beautiful women on TV, and he had also seen a lot of Lu Feng in residential buildings, but they all had a smell of dust. However, the young girl in front of him was as bright as a pure fairy. Just one look at her would make one's heart beat faster. The next second, she felt ashamed of herself. She quickly lowered her head, not daring to look at such a pure person with her dirty eyes. The hellhound was also staring at the girl, sticking out its tongue, which was a rare sight. The sand eagle was hatching the egg, so it couldn't help but stretch out its neck, its attention all on the girl. However, a moment later, the white saber sea eagle pressed it down with a wing and continued to hatch. The young girl seemed to be very interested in this place. She had been peeking around the short few steps she had taken. Link noticed that the girl's eyes would always quickly skip over him when she was about to look at him. It was obviously a deliberate action, but he acted very naturally and pretended to be calm. "Mr. Lin, this is my sister, Anna. You can call her Nana."